Using this Shining 3D Rigil Lite scanner, I will scan this piece of clay that I molded with my hand. I will turn it into this solid body using Fusion 360. I had to modify it and add solid bodies where I then 3D printed it and I put this onto a handbrake handle. I'll show you how to do all these with all the steps in this video. I'm making generatively designed handbrakes and I wanted the handle to also look organic with the rest of it. I modeled this handle just using grips that I actually got off McMaster-Carr and it just did not look natural, it didn't flow. So I figured the best way to make an organic looking handle is to actually scan an organic piece that I make with my hand. So I bought this clay and I'm gonna just pull out a little chunk here. And I figured I might as well make my own handle from some clay that I squeeze, scan it, get the 3D mesh file, load it into Fusion, model it, basically convert it into a solid model, orient it based off of a flat plane that I decide to make. So I'm basically gonna make a flat plane by putting a flat spot on this. We're gonna use that flat plane as a reference and then make a solid body of an organic shape that I can then use in my designs. So this is something that a lot of people need to do, especially for free. This is gonna be the biggest point because there's all kinds of softwares that we use, that I use every day. I pay a subscription fee for them. As a business, that makes perfect sense. We pay a couple grand a year, gives us the capabilities to do things extremely quickly. I'm gonna show you how to do this for free. The majority of the work with this, we're gonna actually do within Fusion. When I say free, I mean the softwares that you need to model 3D mesh files and all of that, you won't need that. You will need to either have a free license with Fusion, which is basically only available as a student, or a 30-day trial, or you will need to be paying for Fusion. But if you're doing any sort of CAD work anyways, Fusion is the one thing that I'm just gonna assume that you already have that if you're watching this video and if you're using this. Everything else though, other than the scanner, you're gonna need to have the scanner as well. You just don't need those fancy conversion softwares like the ones that I use. I'm just gonna grip it the way that I would want. And I noticed that whenever I pull a handle, I always put my thumb on the top of it. This is from my NCAR videos. So I'm basically gonna squeeze this in a way that I would pull on something, and we're gonna kind of end up with that. And I just need to make a flat plane on the bottom. That's obviously not very flat. And the way that I'm gonna do that is kind of sit this on there, squeeze this, push that. The point of this isn't the actual modeling part. So if I take this and I kind of smack it there, so I have a nice flat part on it. And then I'm thinking weight, I'm thinking everything else. I don't want it to be too large in diameter. So you can kind of squeeze it and kind of blend these in. So basically that's what I'm gonna be left with. And you can see it's quite obscure everywhere else except for the bottom. So I'm gonna use the bottom plane of this plate as well to help me on the Fusion side. Now this is a EINSCAN Rigil Lite. The Rigil Lite is a handheld version that has the entire interface built in, so you do not need to connect to a computer until you need to load the scan onto a computer to actually use it. It's basically ready to go as soon as you turn it on. I have the infrared option, which is gonna let me scan stuff without targets, but it's always better to use targets. It's faster, it's more accurate, things like that. It also comes with this in the tray. If you don't know what that is, it essentially allows you to set it down without setting this down on its face so that you don't scratch it up and stuff. You just knock that over, Jack. Yeah, let me put that back. Basically, the way that it's sitting here is how I'm going to actually use it. So right away, it's telling me that it sees targets and I can essentially just start going for it. And it is ready to start scanning. So we're already going. You can see the screen is giving us a really great preview. And the actual clay itself is one of the easiest materials to scan because of its dull, opaque color and feel. Whenever you need to scan something well, you always spray a primer, which gives it a texture, which gives it the best reflective material for laser to see what it's seeing and collect all the data. Whenever you have a shiny surface, it's quite difficult. So this scans perfectly in a matter of seconds. We'll pause that here and we can kind of get a preview of what we're looking at here. And right off the bat, we're pretty much ready to use that as is. So we're gonna select OK. Optimizing. We now have our point cloud done. And basically when we bring this over and upload it to the computer, we're going to create the mesh file from it. I'll show you how to do that. Complete. So it's saving after I selected complete. Now it's in the library, so we can take this over to the computer and now start looking and working with what we did. All right, let's open up EINSTAR Rigil Lite software. You just download this online. In order to connect to this, you can use Wi-Fi or you can use the plugin. So you just swipe down on the screen, connect EINSTAR Rigil. You click this button and basically it'll show a connection on the screen over here. Open the scan, it is the group 14. So you just right click, open project. So we're gonna keep this really simple and I'm going to focus a lot on using Fusion to work with the scan because Shining 3D has their own X model software, but this is largely based on what you're able to do for free and we're gonna just assume that you have a license for Fusion. So let's skip the X model for now. We need to make this into a mesh file. Right now it's just a point cloud. So if you zoom in, it's just a bunch of points in space and the targets are still visible. I'm gonna click Mesh Model, Preview. All of those parameters are things that you can do to refine the mesh model. Usually I'm using what the default is, and I haven't really found any reason to skew away from what their defaults are. You'll see this as a preview and you will be able to adjust things if you wanna mess with these, like the filtering, medium, high, smooth, remove small floating regions, all of those you can play with and see how it does, but every time you change something, it's gonna have a loading period. So for the sake of this video, we're gonna just go ahead with it. Now that we have the mesh file, this is now an actual mesh file. You can see it's got a full surface. I'm now gonna take this and we are going to put it into Fusion. So I'm going to export the scan, save mesh locally, save. So we're gonna bring this over to Fusion now. We are going to find that file, insert mesh, select from computer. I'm gonna open this one, and here is the mesh file. As you can see, it's very randomly placed in outer space. You can see my origin up here is a mess. The shadow is there, nothing's correct. So what I'm gonna do is make the origin visible, and that is where the part origin wants to be. I'm gonna look at my bodies, right click, create component from body, and that's basically gonna create this mesh file as its own component. I'm then gonna unground it. You can see the little anchor there. Once I unground it, I'm able to move it. Moving this is the key to getting it where we want on the origin. So my next move is to go into the component, and we are now going to create a 3-point plane. So I'm in here, I'm gonna go to mesh, I'm then gonna go to modify, direct edit, click on the mesh file I wanna edit. Now I can create a 3-point plane. That's under construction, 3-point plane. I know that this surface is nice and flat, so I can create a plane there, create a sketch, and I can basically put a circle, origin, whatever you want to call it, centered onto my handle. The best that I can see being, I want to center it roughly. This is an organic shape, so we're going to come up with an organic position that basically gives us a good point, nice and centered. From there, go back to here, and I can now use this sketch to orient my component because we created a component from the mesh file. I'm gonna add a couple extra things in that sketch. because I want to kind of determine which direction is forward from this point. And I think I would want it to be right around here. Obviously you could change this, and we're gonna make another line perpendicular to that one. I'll show you why I'm doing that in a second, because it's very difficult, as we were discussing. Orienting an organic shape like this is basically in the eyes of the beholder, however you want it to be positioned, because it's my hand on my handle, and I can just, whichever way feels best for me, that's gonna be the front. Now that I've added those forward and horizontal lines, I can now move this, and you can see the sketch stays connected because the sketch is within the same component. It's all one. Now I can use the constraints commands. So if I go into constraints, I can start looking at how I want to orient this part to our part origin. So obviously I want Z up. So I'm going to change this over here. Set current view as top because I want Z to be the top. Now that I know where the origin is and how I want it to be positioned, the next step is going to be using the constraints command to use the planes and things that I made to get us situated. So I'm going to use this plane, and I'm going to make that constrained to the XY plane on our origin. And I'm going to flip it because I want that side facing up. We're going to make the point center with this point. Perfect. So the plane is now flat with XY. The center of the circle is now in the middle of the Z. It's actually directly on the point of the origin. And then the last constraint I need to do, we really only need to do 3. I'm going to pick this sketch, and I'm going to make it 0 degrees with the Y axis. So we now have oriented this handle. Let's hide this plane. You can see our mesh file is now perfectly oriented with the origin of this component. Now you can see that this thing looks a little bit messy because we have a relationship now. Now we have a handle that's a component. It's a little bit messy. There's one thing that you can do to get this all cleaned up. I can now take the handle and I can drag it to the top level. And you can see that the handle is now part of the main component, back to a single component. And I can basically right click and remove that component that we created. And the only reason we created it was so that we could move things around. Now I've just gotten rid of it. Now you can see how clean this model is. We have a body, it's here, and we can name this differently if we want, and we have an origin. And that's all that there is to this. And I know that it was messy because we had sketches, planes, components, things like that. Now we have it nice and clean. Now we can go into modifying this mesh file to be the way that we want it to be. The first thing I want to do is create a cut plane. So let's do a plane cut. We can use the origin now. Now that we've got the origin perfected, we can actually do a plane cut. So we're basically going to move this plane cut up until we clear all the mesh from below us. And we're just trying different heights because we don't want to remove too much. From here, I now have the handle that we can work with. Origin is located there. We can now go to the, under the mesh tab, the repair tool. Click on the body we want to repair. Click on stitch and remove or close holes. We're going to close holes. Give ourselves a preview. And on the preview, you can see it closed off this one. Now, it's only going to repair based on how good the cut plane is. So if we wanted it to repair it a little more flat or a little bit different, we can go back to our edit feature on the cut plane. I can raise this a little bit more. Now it's not a big deal if I raise it a bit more because how it's going to connect. I only needed this last rib for my finger there. So you can see that this is basically before we edited it, and then this is after we cut it. So you can see that it cut it, filled it perfectly flat on the bottom. Now we only need to repair this one last hole here. So I'm going to go to this button, repair. We are closing the holes, and there's really only one hole that was right there. So it's going to fix that. We're going to select OK. We now have a completed handle. You can remove the edited one. Whenever you edit a mesh file in Fusion, it always keeps the pre-edited version, and then it gives you a new body that is your edited version, and it just closes, it just shuts off the visibility. So I remove that body. We are now left with this beautiful looking handle with a perfectly flat bottom, and this is basically ready to be converted into a solid model. So the next thing we're going to do is do a reduced mesh. Now the reason I'm doing a reduce is because it's going to make it easier to convert it into a solid body when there's a lot less triangles. Fusion doesn't like to do this on a 3D scan that has more than 10,000 triangles. And let me tell you, it's pretty easy to get 10,000 triangles. That scan that we just did had 64,000 triangles in it. From this point, I'm probably going to do another reduction because the final product, I actually don't want it to be that sharp or that specific on where my fingers were. I do want it to be actually quite smooth. So we've done the reduction twice. Now I could have increased how much it reduces it, but I like to use the default of the, I believe it's 25% reduction. I've always just used that, and if I want to do it further, I just do it again. Mostly because if you do it huge, it takes a lot of processing power and sometimes can crash the computer. So from this point, I'm then going to do convert mesh. There's parametric, base feature, and then there's method of faceted, prismatic, or organic. And basically, I'm gonna try and show you each one of these. I'm gonna see if this doesn't crash or not, and we'll show you the differences. Parametric is what we want, and we're gonna try the first one. Now this is gonna be really difficult to work with. That converted totally fine, but this is basically unusable. There's so many different angles, so we're not gonna do it that way. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. The next one we're gonna try is the prismatic, and all of these are gonna have different outcomes. So that did not work at all. Let's try the organic, and we're gonna have a resolution based and accuracy based, and let's just go in the middle by accuracy and medium. Let's try this one. And this is the better, more accurate model that I'm after. And it is going to be one that you'll be able to shell, you'll be able to use this in multiple different ways. So if we go back and look at how we did that, we went parametric, organic, the resolution is by accuracy, and then the accuracy is medium. Now we could have increased the accuracy, but like I told you, I actually wanted it to be fairly smooth. And we could change the accuracy to be a bit lower, and it's going to be just less bodies, but it's actually losing some accuracy on the bottom end here. So medium seemed to work fine. And with that, I have a pretty usable model. Now this bottom piece here is supposed to be completely flat. So let's see if we can actually get rid of some of these faces. So it's only letting me remove the one face, but I'm curious on how well the shell command works, is the body shell. It basically shows you how well you were able to convert the model into a solid body. If it doesn't recognize the solid body and it's not able to shell it, then we didn't do things properly. We didn't seal out the holes properly, and we didn't convert it to a body properly. So the shell command just kind of shows us that we did everything correct. And if we look at the shell, it looks pretty good. So you would be able to now use this model accurately to basically create anything. And the result of what I was able to create was something that I could actually fasten to this 3D printed handle, and I'll be able to bolt this on to my generatively designed handle that we are actually going to 3D metal print. And I have fasteners that go inside of here, and all of that was done by using this technique that I showed you from this 3D scanned piece of clay. I know there's a lot more things that you can do post this, but that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this helps you a bunch on how you can use this, and we'll see you guys on the next video.